I think for us politically also, as you saw the mood here and how like this place tries to be a safe space for a great diversity of people, and we decided not to be like a space with a flag, that would say, oh no, this is only like people of the left only can come here, or this is like a social center for people of this type. That wasn't the goal at all. It's an open space. But we try in our practice and in the links we have to make it exist as a very different space where people can learn and grow.
We don't tell it, but we make you feel that it's a feminist place.
That's it.
Without telling or put it anywhere, you just feel it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. Today we're returning to Pointe St-Charles, Quebec, and joining me today is Stéphane and Gabrielle from Sans-Taverne. Hi. Or specifically Coop, Brasserie Sans-Taverne.
Bar, Brasserie, Coop, Les SansTaverne. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to speak with us about your brewery and everything beer related, and pretty much your journey in beer today. You brought me out some delicious looking beers here to try. What am I starting with?
I'd go with the Pale Velvet to start.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a version that we age in barrel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's a first try of this type of beer. The Pale Velvet was basically a mixed fermentation. We mixed half. We did our mash and then added a half quantity of apple juice, and then fermented them together.
Fresh apple juice from
an orchard.
Close from here.
Awesome. As we do on the show.
Cheers.
A toast.
So it's not exactly a half cider, half beer. They're fermented together. And then, we aged part of the brew in a barrel.
It's a great
With some bread. Yeah.
This is very unique. I haven't had any. 120 episodes in, I don't think I've ever had something like this on the show. So
the first canned version, was more of a like beer and cider mix, but now with the aged version, it's almost like a cider for me, anyways.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
Yeah. So the Brett has really sort of acidified it, and
That's great too, because we're just coming off a cider interview on top of that, so it's almost. It's a perfect pairing in a sense, so that's great. So Gabrielle, you're one of the founders. Stéphane, you take care of events and social media. But so for Gabrielle, the history of Sans-Taverne, why did you create this brand?
Well, okay, so Sans-Taverne has, we opened almost 4 years ago, but we have a long history. We're a collective that decided to open a brewery in Pointe St-Charles, our neighborhood, which is a small working class neighborhood in the southwest of Montreal, with a big history, an interesting community history, a very political neighborhood that has had strong community mobilization in its past. And most of the founders lived in the neighborhood, lived collectively in the neighborhood. And we were attracted to this neighborhood because of its political history and its community history. And we realized that there were no more bars in this in this neighborhood. So the name of the brewery comes from there. The neighborhood used to be called. People used to call it Le Quartier aux Sans-Taverne, so the neighborhood with 100 taverns, because there were taverns at every street corner. And then with deindustrialization and the rest, the neighborhood changed a lot, and most of the taverns closed up. When we arrived, there were only 3 left in the neighborhood, and we figured that to have a space to assemble, talk informally, and meet and create community was absolutely crucial to keeping that history alive in the neighborhood. So we wanted to open a bar, basically a neighborhood bar, and to brew our own beer, which we used to do in our house. So that's it, basically. And the history continued when we allied with other groups in the neighborhood to fight for the recuperation, actually the transfer of a property that was owned by a big promoter. That was basically given to a big promoter for free by the city back in the early 2000s. We fought against the project that this promoter had and reclaimed one of the buildings of the CN lands to be given over to the community. So we have this huge, beautiful old brick building that used to be a central space where people worked, workers in the neighborhood worked. and reclaimed it for the community. We won our struggle after 10 years of struggle against this promoter, and the building was given over to the community along with $1 million to start repairing it. And this is where we decided to set foot. So we were part of the organizing to reclaim this building, and that really anchored the project. So the day we opened the bar, we already had a community, and the story had already begun, basically. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, my brother-in-law, he used to work for CN Rails, and he's like, yeah, this building used to be like a shower house or something, or like where the guys would just come and be here, and just to find out the history of. It is unfortunate that, here's land, just do what you want. It's like, but the neighborhood pub, where did that go? And that's a big thing in Canada, which I speak with my friends about all the time, is we've lost the neighborhood pub.
Yeah.
So, and that's really unfortunate. It's that it was a place for the working class to go and enjoy a drink after and calm down after a crazy hectic week. So.
Exactly. And the neighborhood has changed a lot too in the past years. It's really gentrified fast, and we opened the bar in this context. And for us to have a space, not only the bar, but the rest of the building that has many other projects, all these projects were based on the idea of autonomy, community autonomy. We answer our needs and our desires ourselves with our own means. That is why it was very important for us to have a space and a building for the community. So that's basically the story and why we opened this place. I think people who come here also feel that they belong here, and that this place belongs to them as well, because it was fought for by all of us. Yeah.
I mean, even when we came in for the interview, it's like a bunch of kids, and there's a playroom in the back and stuff, which is fantastic to have. Is that it is that community, and there's a daycare like 2 doors over, so you can just. Mom and dad drop off the kids and then come for a couple of drinks.
That's it, exactly. That's it.
Yeah. So you're our first co-op. For those that don't know what a co-op is, can you explain that?
Yeah. So we're a workers' co-op. Co-ops all have their own way. I think all co-ops can be very different, but the basic idea of a workers' co-op is that there's no boss. It's worker-owned. People who work here organize together to build the space, develop it, and keep it alive. And so for us, our specific form is that workers here do not have to become members. They can if they desire to. And so the member workers share the responsibility of getting this place running. We make decisions together. This place is non-profit, so whatever money surplus we could make, we reinvest, and we have a commitment to creating good jobs, long-lasting jobs, good working conditions. So that's
quality of life.
The quality of life, absolutely.
The idea is not to get richer, but to have better quality of life for everybody who works here. That would be the main goal.
So to have our work be meaningful, feeling that we are making a difference in our community, that we can stay here on the long term, that we won't tire ourselves out, which is not easy when you start a business, but and that we have a good, basically our way of life can be meaningful and can be intermeshed with our work. So that's the goal. And also that, as I said, we are a nonprofit, but we really try to create good working conditions also in terms of salary, vacations, etc. for people who work here. And it's a big move to make in our industry, in the service industry, in the beer industry. The jobs are typically very precarious, low paid. I've known waiters who have had the same pay for 20 years and no extra week of vacation after 20 years in this. I mean, it's not and we feel that being a waiter is not some transition job when you're in a community that needs a bar.
Many waiters work together. It's not like one waiter doing a big rush, a big service, and it's not the way we want to do it. It's, we have a nice team behind the bar, and everybody's a little bit more laid back than the stressful waiter, you know.
That's
we
it.
don't want that. We've done that in our lives, and we don't want that.
And we want our like bartenders, brewers, everybody who works here. We want everybody to be here in 20 years if we wish to. In 20 years, it's a community space, which is why we're not just like doing seasonal work, and we want to make sure it's a long-term thing, and to hope to have an impact also within the industry to show that there's other ways to work and to have a less precarious relationship to this kind of work. So.
No, I know the big thing in Ontario, I specifically, because I know one of the big Ontario beer writers, Jordan St. John, is breweries are starting to announce that we're paying a living wage, that you could come and you could be a beer tender and not have to worry about, oh, I need this extra like 50 cents to make my rent.
Yeah,
tips.
exactly.
So, and that's a super important thing, is to have that focus of like, we want you to be here, but we also need you to live at the same time. We don't need you to work here and at home and on the weekends and just continue like, you don't want, from the sound of it, you don't want your employees to have their weekend job. Unless they choose to do two jobs. Then
absolutely.
Sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes they do. And there's also, for us, one of the important things is to say that work is not everything. We like to work, we like what we do. We like to do other things too in life, and there's this flexibility that we try to create to have other projects outside of here. So to make sure that these are ways that we think we can stick around here for a long time if what we do here is not in contradiction with the rest of our lives. So that's one thing. Another thing to add maybe is we share tips. It's just an example. Like the relationship to tips in the service industry is so high, like it can really create hierarchies, and we've decided to just share tip amongst everyone, not just people who do who work at the bar, but also with people who brew, with people who do administration. So we basically share tip equally, and it's not linked to to which shifts you make, and, you know, and which tables you wait. So that's one way that we that's it. So people who come to the bar, when they come here, leave a tip. It goes to everyone, and that's how we make sure we work as a team.
Yeah, that's the most important part. You know, you don't want, let's say, because I'll just say the blonde waitress with the glasses, you know, she gets a table of a group of guys like us, who look like us, who'd love to drink good craft beer, and then just like a family table that's just one person's going to have a beer. You don't want to give that to another employee. That's kind of unfair when you think about it. So.
One who gets the 10 kids also
get
the same wage.
Better earn that tip.
Because it's just as important.
And you said it's a community pub, despite being craft, and craft isn't a huge community factor at this time. There are people who are changing, which is good, is to have those people. You know, I got my elderly father and middle-aged brother-in-law into craft beer like 5 years ago. It's good to draw those, you know, beer can have flavor.
Of course.
You don't have to just drink 50 or X. Beer can be super tasty, as proven by the first one I already had. It's it's a beer cider. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And your Pilsner too that I had earlier when I first got here, it's crisp, it's malty, it goes down super smooth. So and that's something I always look forward to in craft beer is the uniqueness of every brewer, and obviously you're multiple brewers, so it's just who did what this week is something that if I were able to come here more, I would be like, oh, who's, whoever else, oh, Gabrielle made this week, but then Stéphane had input on with another brewer at this one, so that's something I love to hear, is that it's not just one or two brewers doing everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny you talk about the Pilsner, because what we like is we have the pint of Pilsner at $6.50 all the time. So, every prices, every brewery is going up because of everything's going on in the world, but at least, you have a good, fresh Pilsner, not too expensive to come at the pub,
That's it. Yeah, the accessibility of our beer is really important to us as well. That's one thing we've always kept as a strong. You can even look in our status as a co-op. The very formal status has identifies decisions that must be taken by members in all co-ops. We added one for us, which is the price of beer. It has to be a consensus decision by members. So it's really important to us to keep the price really accessible. And it's a good example you give of the Pils. Which is not more expensive than any tavern, corner tavern.
Yeah, I mean $6.50 is a great price at a craft brewery place for a Pilsner. Usually it's $8-9, and then there's crazy IPAs that are like $10-12. So that's great. That it's affordable too. It's like you said, the land of 100 taverns that used to exist and don't really exist anymore. I mean, I know of the Regal, and that's about it that I know of here. There's starting to become more restaurants, and like you said, there's gentrification. I'm from Verdun, so gentrification,
You know it,
that
it's
happened.
coming.
You know, and it's the same thing as, well, we didn't have a craft beer bar, and then Benelux came in.
Yes.
I'm super happy
Yeah.
Benelux. You know, I can walk there, you know, never drink or drive, so it's
Crazy building.
yeah. And so it's the return of these neighborhood pubs that is something that I find we really need desperately across Canada that we don't have anymore. I was in Cleveland 5 years ago, and at the end of the street of our Airbnb, it looked like a house, but it was a pub.
That's it.
And we just,
Cool.
they're all gone here, so it's unfortunate, but hopefully in time things will, you know, everything's kind of cyclical, so hopefully in time it'll come back.
Yeah.
It's really kind of the schooling that I went through, because I worked as a bartender and I worked the events at the first brew pub in Montreal called Le Cheval Blanc. That's where I met Gabby. We were working on Saturdays together, and all the events were there, so we were having a blast, meeting all kind of people and meeting different brewers, and that's what I like to bring here. We started recently, put rails for expositions, exhibits, and we lately put up a better sound system, and we're gonna start making local acts and bring acts from different parts of Montreal, and kind of blend the Pointe St-Charles people with people, all artists from all over Montreal, and make it more alive and get it a step higher, because everything for me, art is often overrated. Just want to bring it back to the people, and everybody can make art, everybody can participate, and this is how you build an interesting community. And the excuse is beer.
That's the important part, is you're not just supporting the local community, but you're supporting local artists. You know,
That's
there's
the
art when I came in, there's art on the walls. I saw the piano as well, so it's clear that you're going to have local acts come in, and that's kind of our show's, you know, terminology is support local. That's, you know, our ethos is support local, so that's been a thing. And I know I discovered you because I was at Quebec down the street, and I wrote breweries near me. You guys popped up.
Little hidden secret.
Yeah, little 25-minute walk, and I'm able to drink more beer, so it's great.
There you go. But yeah, I think it's an important point Stéphane raised, that we are like very anchored locally. But creating community also leads us to encountering people from outside the neighborhood and creating links between these spaces. We know a lot of our regulars don't even live in the neighborhood. Some live on the South Shore, some are like across in Villeray, but they come here because they have found friends community, even if it's far, right? So
a lot of people come.
So it's really a question of a vibe as well, and the effect of the space has been quite magic, where it went sort of beyond what we thought. But people in the bar now that didn't know each other now know each other. Something has happened in the bar, a real intermeshing of people and artists as well in the events we've put forth. So we're quite proud of that, and these people make the place live. So.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. So clearly, just the creation of this place was a roadblock in itself, from the building previously being owned by somebody else, and then kind of claiming it back, in a sense, to bring it back. When you brought this to the city of Pointe St-Charles, were they open to the idea of finally bringing a brew pub back here, or a co-op, let alone a brasserie?
So it was not too difficult to obtain the permit. There are always, I mean, it's a long process to obtain a brewing permit, of course. But in terms of the local administration was open, and we did get our permit quite fast. I think it was important for us to have the artisan permit because it gave us possibilities, and it was also really the spirit of the space to be more of a local artisan brewery. So we brew here, we serve here, and it's a brew pub basically. And we're happy that also there were innovations in the law surrounding the permit that allows us now to do more than we used to do. But it was important for us to have that as an identity and a form when we started off.
So I know you're doing takeout, and clearly growlers at first, because to me the cans are very new. So what made you decide to finally let's Bodega said we have Sans-Taverne on the shelf because they're local. What made you finally go pull the trigger on let's put them in bottles and cans?
Well,
Pandemic.
Pandemic. The law changed that allowed us to sell beers in convenience stores, local dépanneur we call them.
Yes.
So a whole new world now, and created more jobs, and that's why I'm here. Straight away, because there's a whole lot of job comes with that, and the same process starts again. Okay, let's get local artists. Let's mix them up with other artists that works with other breweries, and a good friend of mine, Mille Simon Bossé from Danam, he did a nice can for us, and he didn't even charge us. We do little things. You can just buy an ad in my Etiquette Revue. I don't know if you know about that. It's a journal of all paid by all the breweries, and it's delivered by Bouquet.
Oh, yeah,
Called
you've seen it?
Etiquette, really nice. So it's okay. We're still doing contacts and having fun, and when an artist likes what they do and they start sharing what we did, and now we have more partners, and it's expanding again towards the arts with the beer, beyond beer.
Yeah, exactly. And it really saved us during the pandemic to start doing that for many reasons. Of course, financially, we had we started by bottling. We didn't have the canning machine. But that kept us going, that kept us brewing, that kept us selling a bit of beer. So we stayed out of the water financially thanks to that. It also allowed us to really keep a link with the community around. People came to visit. They would really hang out for a long time as they bought the bottle.
I didn't want to leave.
And to have a little talk. People were happy to come, just grab a pizza and a beer and see us. So we kept a link during these 2 years with people around us. And also, this whole to work on visuals, meet artists, that really took off when we got the canning machine. During the pandemic, we got quite an important grant from local social economy.
PME Montreal.
Yeah, PME Montreal. Right? So that basically supports social economy businesses, and we got a grant that allowed us to develop that, to buy the canning machine. And when we ordered the canning machine and got our grant confirmed, and then the law changed, and we learned we could actually also sell it in convenience stores. That was just like we took off from there, and it allowed us to stay creative, develop our image, and that was welcome at a time when we were all sort of like hanging around. We had our head in production, and that was it. It allowed us to exist outside the neighborhood too.
I mean, as a craft beer drinker myself, I was super nervous that all you guys were going to end up shutting down. And
exactly.
Almost none have. That is, I know there's Krukenin in Blainville, they shut down. That's the only one in Quebec that I'm aware of that shut down. More breweries we're at about 50-50 where we've interviewed breweries that have opened during the pandemic versus breweries that existed before the pandemic. So the fact that more and more are popping up, and it's, I like to say friendly competition. So, and that's something I'll bring up after is drink here and then go visit a friend.
Absolutely.
So that's the most important part.
It's good you bring it up because we have a very good friend who lives in the neighborhood and who worked here for some time, who just opened a brewery too in Hochelaga in another neighborhood called Mutoid. And so that was it was fun to work with him. We've collaborated on a lager recently, and he came to work here at first explicitly to learn and to open his own. So that was a great collaboration to be able to share tips. And now we do a lot together, and he's been able to profit from what we learned.
We did a camp called La Mutine.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, some pretty unique names too. White Stout, Black Keys, Sans Patron, Gemini, Tetras. This is also a collaborative effort as a team of, hey, let's name it this. Here's our idea. Now, obviously, Goza Town's pretty obvious. It's a Goza. It's just with some, it's I didn't know Gemini, and then I see Rice Lager. I'm like, ooh, Rice Lager.
Yep.
Cool.
That comes all the names and the visuals. I don't know if there's a bit of magic. We come up with stuff every time. It's a bit of a jam that we do
this one,
for every
I like
beer.
it a lot. Cookie Wonderland.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, the art's wild.
See the guy in the condo. Like, no, not the Pookies again.
It's almost because it's not here, but I know at Fun Electric they also have their yearly graffiti festival. So it's almost like tempting to bring in those artists to work here together. And there's obviously some big project while we're interviewing today that's going up outside. When I first came here, there was a parking lot in the front. Now there's a park. So it's continually you're continually evolving as part of this Bâtiment 7. So we're going to get to the beer and then we're going to get to the history of the Bâtiment set.
Okay.
So what's beer number 2?
Okay. It's the Berlin Frucht.
Berlin Frucht, yeah, it's a Berliner with sea buckthorn.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah, it's not too sour, but the sea buckthorn kicks in really well.
Awesome.
So it's a little cheers.
Yep, toast.
A little Berliner Weiss.
Sven's already done.
Sorry, I'm already done.
So one of the brewers here, who was also one of the founders, I lived with him back in the day when he started brewing at home. And back then, and it was, I guess, a good 10, 12 years ago, there weren't many sours around. It was not something that was known at all. And I remember him brewing a little sour at home in our kit, throwing in a couple bio cup, like those little yogurts, right?
Oh, okay, yes.
Into the mash, and people were like, "What are you doing? What is this?" And then people were very surprised at drinking this beer, and so it was really like an attempt that he made back then to do Berliner Weiss that he's really perfected, and we always have a Berliner Weiss on the menu now. And it's the champagne of the poor, they call it.
Yeah.
So I guess it fits with us.
Champagne,
It's incredibly balanced. There's no it's not like a souring punch to the face where my lips want to literally go inside. That's what I'm always worried about: is sour or Berliner or anything like that. Is how sour is it going to be? And I've had some sours that they literally used Warhead sour candies to make the beer, and I'm like, whoa!
No.
It's an experience, right? It's not like I'm going to be drinking this every day because it's not for my palate. My personal palate is lagers first, and then IPAs next. That's for me, but I'm more than willing to try any type of beer as long as it's not. I think in the history of the 5,000 plus different beers I've had, I've poured one beer. So it's rare for me to really give up on a beer.
I see. Good.
Last summer we did that Berliner version, but with basil.
The Pistu sour.
It was scary, but
that was interesting.
At the end it was very nice result.
That was
very
really
refreshing
nice.
Summertime beer.
Nice with the pizza. And it's always quite light because we of course we sour it before fermentation, but I don't think we've ever doubled the sourness post fermentation. It's always we cut the souring pretty early, so they're always quite light, like between 3-4%, 4.5 sometimes are Weiss. To stay with the style, and so it's very we say pintable in French, but very pintable, right?
In English it's crushable.
Crushable.
There's another. I can't remember the other one, but I like to use Crushable personally, especially like a lager. I'm just like, the maltiness is perfect.
Does it refer to like crushing the can?
It's finished.
Exactly. Well, I'm a bit of a snob. Most of my beers have to be in a glass. That's my personal choice, though. I purchased a thing where I can literally just rip off the top of the can and just drink out, and it doesn't cut my lips. So
I see. Smart.
Crushable.
So the history of Bâtiment 7. What's the history?
Okay, so that's also a long history. You've got the gist of it is that basically this building, just as the rest of the lands of the CN Rail, were given over to a promoter called Vincent Chiara, Groupmac, which is one of the biggest promoters in Montreal. At a time in the early 2000s when the neighborhood had very, very big, very big needs, and the community was quite mobilized, and this promoter suggested that the casino should move here, and that there should be a hotel, and it should be like a international meeting space. Anyway, so that was such a ridiculous project, and of course linked with big money. the community mobilized against. The casino specifically was like the spearhead of the struggle. That was one. The promoter had to back out. Quebec backed out, so the casino project was canceled. The promoter was pissed off. And then they didn't stop there. The community in this process organized to think what we would want on the CN land instead. So that's where the collective that organized to reclaim this building, which is a small part of the whole CN rail land, which is the junction with the neighborhood, with the more inhabited neighborhood, between the industrial and the inhabited neighborhood. We formed a collective to reclaim this building. Building is very, very long. It's, I don't know how I could give you like an image of the size. I think there's something like 100,000 square feet inside the building. And we have a bit of land around. As we reclaimed the building, we didn't stop there. We also tried to obtain a piece of land so that we could develop a farm project. And we also fought against a condo development project next door to the building that we also won, where now there will be a public park.
Yeah.
And Batiment 7, so we won this struggle. After 8 years of mobilization, we ended up getting the key of this building. Of course, it was a first that such a huge promoter had to give up on a project, not only give up on a project, but hand over a building for free to the community with $1 million on top.
Wow.
So we got that through like a long, very determined struggle, and a community that knew where it was going. And in Batiment 7, the idea is to build collective autonomy, so to build projects in which we give ourselves the means to organize, thrive as a community. So we have collaborative workshops where people can come and repair their car, their bike. There's a metal shop, there's a photo shop, there's whatever you want in terms of a wood shop,
silk screen shop,
silk screen printing shop. There are other projects like a community grocery store that's also another form of a cooperative where the customers basically are also members, are involved and get the grocery shop running. There's a Press Start, which is a collective of youth who self-organized to create a youth space in the building. They've built an arcade. They organize great events to welcome, for youth to gather and do good stuff together. So I'm forgetting a few, but I'm definitely forgetting a few, but all these projects are there and thriving, and there's much more to come. We only opened 20,000 of the square feet. There's 80,000 more coming. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know that the first time I ever came here, I don't know if it was just a group of LGBT community that organized it, or it was actually LGBTQ night. But, I walk in and I'm the only one who looks like this, and then I see a bunch of members of the LGBT community, and they're all dancing and having fun, and I'm just like, I look like a typical beer bro, but I'm like, no, I want more people of color in beer. More women like yourself have to be involved in the brewing industry. So it's nice that you have these kind of events to welcome the communities that are necessary. And even in the restroom, I noticed there's a lot of the fight the power type stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is really important, is that I know the big boys, the BMCs, they're like, no, we don't want craft, but people want flavor in their beer. And it's very slow, and you're getting maybe 0.5% more of a classic beer drinker to come over time, but it's really slow, but I feel it is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for us politically also, as you saw the mood here and how this place tries to be a safe space for a great diversity of people, and we decided not to be like a space with a flag, that would say, oh no, this is only like people of the left only can come here, or this is like a social center for people of this type. That wasn't the goal at all. It's an open space. But we try in our practice and in the links we have to make it exist as a very different space where people can learn and grow.
We don't tell it, but we make you feel that it's a feminist place.
That's it.
Without telling or put it anywhere, you just feel it.
Now, there's honestly no need to be preachy about it, because then you will get the people of the complete opposite angle of like, no, I'm not going to support this place.
No.
There's
It's not necessary.
2 breweries in Ontario that, because of like pandemic measures that they're against, I'm like, sorry, I work in science. I don't agree with you guys, and I won't spend my money there. Yeah. Whereas here it's very clear in Quebec, especially like everybody. It sucks having to wear a mask, but just do it. That's it. So.
Yeah. We have
Get it over with.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. It'll come along. Just give it time. You know, if history's proven anything, is with the way it's mutating. Hopefully, we're at the tail end of this pandemic where it becomes more like the flu. But who knows what next mutation is going to come along? And let's just do what we need to do to kind of get together and cooperate together and keep businesses, especially local businesses, going. Like, we need local businesses to support the economy. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to spend my money at local businesses. Not everybody can, but you're more than make it affordable to come here and grab a pizza and a pint for under $25. It's
Absolutely. That's the
pretty
idea.
rare. So.
Yeah, and people have really been supportive during the pandemic. People kept coming. Like always, at first it was to grab all these bottles and drinking our beer instead of going to the det. Making that 20-minute walk, you know, to grab our beer instead of another type, and that was really important. That changed everything for us. Yeah.
And I mean, craft beer is the color of the rainbow, and we do need more diversity in craft beer. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
I've been preaching that since the beginning. Not everybody should look like me who's drinking craft beer, because most people who look like me are the ones who drink craft beer. So.
And you know, I realized also with the law that changed that allows us now to distribute our beer outside the pub. It's quite like, because we're an artisan brewery, we brew very small scale. We do 800-liter batches, and we always brew new stuff. You know, we don't have our 5 or 6 or 8 recipes that we have a few recipes that we keep always on the menu, but we're always brewing new stuff. We brew like 5 times a month. So always a new, you know, a new etiquette, a new visual, a new taste. And so when you bring that type of beer out in a convenience store, people are always surprised. They'll come back every week, every 2 weeks, and they'll find a new beer.
What's going on?
So that's why we really wanted to have like a visual that's different every time. And it's a good opportunity we have as artisan breweries. We're not big competitors for the other brewers. We brew such small batches. But the fact that we can distribute brings a real diversity in the convenience stores. So we're happy to be able to do that. And I think we're going to keep, it's a temptation sometimes to just, okay, we'll bring it down to 8 beers. I'll make it more simple, less work. But it wouldn't be interesting for us. We have this great, we can experiment in beer, we can serve them in the pub, but now we can also get people to taste them all over Quebec.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the important part too. And you know, guys like Bouquet, as you mentioned, it's them being able to, they're doing their their 12 packs that they've been doing or whatever. It's like, oh, I can discover breweries from Quebec I never knew unless I look on the AMBQ website or or Google like Quebec breweries. And then even then, they're not all on those websites. So it's you have to catch it, and being in stores, I think, is drastically going to help. That you know. If I'd only ever stuck to Verdun and I only knew about Quatre Origines, I finally see you guys and they're in Pointe St-Charles as well. And then just Google and it's only like a 20-minute walk away. Like,
that's it.
You know, or I go to the other way and go to Sir Grisses and Pub Brewski, and so it's
the flip side of that though is that people will get a can in a convenience store, taste it and be like, wow, this is so good, I want to come drink it at the pub. They come 2 weeks later at the pub, it's over, it's gone, try something else.
The beer stores are crazy about that because it's always new stuff. So okay, we're gonna buy, we're gonna try this, we're gonna take a little cases of that, and it's always, it comes back again. So it's really fun.
Even your food menu, like I saw the pizzas, but on the website it doesn't say anything about pogos, and I saw pogos are available today, so clearly your menu is constantly changing as well. It's just, you guys are just keep changing with the times and come on down and try something new.
That's it, exactly.
That's a great attitude to have.
You can be surprised, but the mood will be the same and the beer will be good. So that we can guarantee.
So somebody comes here, tries a bunch of your beers, buys a few on the way home. Hey, there's friends in the area. I already mentioned Quatre Origines, but other friends or local pubs that are in a reasonable, let's say, walking distance, or thankfully you're pretty close to a metro when you think about it. 3-4 friends that you're like, I'm glad you drank here, but go drink here.
Okay. You give it a shot.
Well, in the area, really, we have a little brew at Messorem, like if you like IPAs. But if not, I'd get out of the area and go just downtown at the Cheval Blanc, that's for sure. And after that, if you still want to drink, well, you go down to Hochelaga to Mitoid. So that's a good little tragic right there.
Yeah.
Very fun. And now there's a new usine for l'espace public when you go farther in Hochelaga. Really nice place to go try out different beers than at the pub. L'espace public, yeah.
That's it. The first two that you named, we did collaborations with. So Cheval Blanc, for us, is important because our heart is there. That's where we met. That's where I learned about beer and doing this work. But we collaborated with them before we opened, and so it was the 30-year anniversary of the brew pub, of the Cheval Blanc brew pub, that has existed. The bar itself has existed since the beginning of the 20th century, but it was the first artisan brewing permit in Quebec, and they had been open 30 years. So it was our 30-year anniversary. We were 0, and we did a collab that was symbolic because it was a transmission of knowledge and motivation, and so it's definitely for us an inspiration too in terms like of a neighborhood tavern. It's downtown, but it's got such a strong spirit. That's a good stop to go to.
And if you want to go crazy and try some of the best beers in Quebec, you can go at Pointe Carré in Chinatown.
Okay.
Very nice place, and always have the best quality beers. I don't know how they do to get them, but they have them. It's very fun.
That's the first time I've heard of that, so I'm going to have to
Oh,
check
you
them
have
out
to
at
go
some
there.
point.
There's
And it's nice food too, very nice.
And there's good breweries all over Montreal, but I would really, for me, I encourage people to take a trip outside of Montreal too and go see the breweries that are. What you said about neighborhoods needing pubs is true about villages, and there are pubs now opening up in villages all across Quebec, which has really changed. So one of the places that I really like that brews great beer. It's hard to find in Montreal. They keep their beer mostly in their region. It's on the north Côte Nord. So I don't know if you say that in English. North Coast.
So is it above Laval?
North Shore. No, Côte Nord is all the way is more east. It's like north, so it's around. It's past Charlevoix.
Oh boy.
So we're talking about a brewery in Bécomo called Saint Pancras that brews great beer. That's developed very fast, and that does a lot in their region also to promote beer with the brewery in Tadoussac as well. I think they've done good work together to promote, to develop beer and work in their communities to build something around that. That's for me. That's one of my coup de cœur, and it's also a region that's so beautiful. I have to go every year to see the whales and see. And it's a very wild and beautiful region.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how large Quebec and Ontario are as provinces. Because like the prairies are just like squares, or rectangles, and then you have the islands of the Maritimes. I mean, if you include Labrador and Nova Scotia, that's one thing, but Quebec and Ontario are gigantic provinces, and there's beer everywhere.
It's true.
Great.
Well, not exactly everywhere because we're all around the river. The north is like huge, and not many pubs there. But yes, absolutely, all along the river you can find pubs everywhere.
I really like Sutton Brewery, very nice place. And you go farther, you got Dunham, one of our good friends too, Eloi. And we have to talk. If you go to Gaspésie, you have to go at Oval. It's not a brew pub, but you have to get some beers there. And I can guarantee you, it's not overrated, and it's real.
That's I had somebody who lives in Montreal, and he was out there, and he takes a picture after. I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me you were going to Oval? I would have transferred you money, and you could have bought me beer. I wouldn't have cared what. It's Oval. I've only had one, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
Maybe it's worth mentioning too that we've been working, Stéphane especially, on a project of creating a network of brewing co-ops, because there are a few, a few co-ops in Quebec that brew. So we could try to name them all. Can you finish up?
Saint-Fou.
À l'affût.
À l'affût, Saint-Fou aussi.
Saint-Fou.
Barberie, you know Barberie.
In Quebec City.
After that, you've got
Chasse-Pinte is there?
Chasse-Pinte, that's what I was looking for.
Chasse-Pinte is there.
Chasse-Pinte. You got recently Les Grands Bois has joined the table. And Ma Brasserie has joined the table as well,
Yeah.
but they're not very active right now, but they should be in due time. So it's getting interesting with these two new players. And there's a new microbrewery opening in Shop Angus called La Shop.
Okay.
That will be very interesting too. Mainly they'll be doing English beer styles, but more than that there, but that's what they told me recently. So yeah, that's another one. So every month or maybe sometimes 2 months we get together and we talk about what kind of collaboration we could do. And last summer we did just like a pub takeover, a tap takeover with all these co-ops, and it was very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
That
fun.
is amazing. I love that. Yeah, I like the idea. You know, I've always said each kind of exit along the 20 or the 40, you know, take the exit, you're in a little town, there needs to be a brewery there. So,
Yeah. I think La Barberie, for me, it's a place I used to go a long time. Like, it's been open for a long time.
Oh yeah,
and
almost
it's
as old as the Cheval Blanc.
Yeah, and they have really developed the co-op model, and they've been very firm around this idea of the workers' co-op, and I think it's worth visiting. They have a great terrace, great beer, and it's also a real community space. So I would definitely. You have to stop in Quebec, you know. You've driven for 2.5 hours. Take a little break there. It's
it's a hell of a drive to the Gaspésie.
There's good stops on the way, though.
And then even then, you know, so this is what I'd like to ask is when you actually have time to take a vacation, but it's beer focused. Doesn't have to be Quebec. It could be the Maritimes, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. What's a beercation, or even Europe? What's a beercation you'd love to take that you've never taken?
Well, no, it's a bit too easy to say Germany, but I would have to do it. I have to do it in the next few years when things calm down. Yeah, we like that. But I have to tell you, I don't know much about the brewing industry in Ontario, so it's just beside. But I have to get more involved in that and maybe get collaborations going. There would be interesting with our neighbors. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I wonder, but it's more of a question. Do you think there's a lot of breweries in New Zealand, Australia?
There is.
Yeah? Because I would like that, because they have good hops.
Oh, yeah,
Good
that's
fresh
for
hops.
sure.
There's
And,
a brewery in
yeah.
New Zealand. I want to try it because just their I'm sold on their can art. It's all you know, like Godzilla's a kaiju type monster, and it's all little kaijus, but they're super cartoony and friendly. And I'm like, that's the only reason I want to try your beer, is because the art looks amazing. So.
I'm thinking about that. Maybe there's some great co-ops too in Ontario that we could collaborate with. That would be a good direction. Huh?
Absolutely.
So you mentioned collabs you've done. Any dream collabs that you'd love to do?
Again, we talked about it recently. Do something with, I don't know if it'd be interesting, but with l'Espace Public, it would be fun. We had a lot of same values with them, and they kind of really focused on pub de quartier, but as well, they're expanding and they sell a lot of beers all over town. It's very getting better every year, so that would be fun.
Can I add a dream?
Oh yes.
No, please.
So a personal dream would be to brew with La Brie de la Tempête.
Okay,
Les Îles de la Madeleine, which is a great team, they're really, I've met the brewer there once, who's really like an incredible person. Well, I've basically seen her at Cheval Blanc
a few
pop
times.
up a few times. And so I was very impressed. We also because we're looking for people like us in the industry that are not so like white male focused, and it is an industry where that is, I mean, the dominant type.
Yep.
What do you want? And we would love to build bridges with women or people who don't identify as men and in the industry, and try to build these links. And so that would be for me like a.
Maybe they'll write when they see this. We're looking for you.
We're looking for you.
I mean, if I could suggest anybody, if she were to come down from the Waterloo region of Ontario, Ren Navarro, she knows beer diversity. You know, a black woman who's part of beer. A black lesbian woman who's part of beer. So even then, it's like, you know, that is somebody that you mentioned, like, this is the type of person we want in our community, is somebody who's just not me.
All right, awesome, cool. You have to give us
so what's this last beer I'm having here?
Ooh, that's the version, another barreled one.
Okay.
It's a version we made white wheat beer with cranberries and oranges.
I get all the cranberry on the noses.
And once we aged them in oak barrels, then all the the white yeast beer that you get at the first, it's completely disappeared, and you have a little heat from the bourbon and a little final. Little vanilla final.
I look forward to it.
Finish.
Toast.
Cheers. We don't have any. And yeah, like you said earlier, it was quite surprising. Us two, we would never have thought of throwing in
white beer,
cranberry white
Yeah.
in a bourbon barrel.
Ooh.
But I guess
Wow.
Big surprise for us.
People in the
well, for
brewery
me,
were like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's try it. And
It's not like the bourbon is overpowering either.
No.
You know, I do find when a stout is aged in a bourbon barrel, you're getting bourbon. It's just like that right hint of the bourbon with the vanilla.
I'm not sure how long, but it's like 6 to 8 weeks or
Yeah.
something like that.
Maybe
Not
even,
more than that.
Yeah.
Maybe
With
not
the
even
bread
that.
that was in the barrel. So
Yeah,
that's
it's still alive. Yes,
That's
I
fantastic.
really like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those barrels we got them a couple years ago now, and it was like, oh, let's try the first batches. You have to work the barrels so they develop their bread, and we weren't really sure, and now we try to almost systematically throw in a little 200 liters in there.
Big surprise.
And we have surprises all the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy the art and science of beer blows my mind. What can be done, and
Endless.
what was a New England IPA 10 years ago except for a beer that came out of Vermont?
Yeah.
Now everybody's making one. Sours goes as salty sour. Who does that? Well, Germany does it. No, oh my God. And, we were lucky enough to interview Atoka before it shut down. And we were like, no, we're going classic Belgian styles, and that's Quebec's foundation originally of beer is Belgian beer. So it's nice to. I love crazy wild beer, but I also love classic beers. It's my palate just wants to try everything. So.
Yep. Maybe I can name one that we tried. We brewed twice. We did 2 brews here since we opened with only women from the brewery and women that we invited. And the second one we did was called the vin, so vin like wine, 20 wine, vin. And we brewed it in the fall at the vendange, the harvest, like the grape harvest season. We had met someone who grew grapes and who did wine at home, and we asked him to send a bit of Frontenac white grapes. So we did a saison brette with quite a big quantity of rice to lighten it up, to make it what's the word in English? Anyway, to have like a more of a velouté sort of texture, and less grain.
Silky.
That's it. It's that silky touch. And we threw in a big quantity of grapes that we had
Mashed.
sort of mashed, with that we kept the.
With your feet?
Skin.
The skin. That's it. So we threw in the grapes with their skin and let it age, and it was like really special. And we aged that in a whole year in one of our barrels. So 1 year later, it came out at the beginning of 2020. And we had 200 liters in there for 1 year, and the year after we tasted that, and that was crazy. It really had this wine and the bread, this wine taste. The bread came out, so we're thinking of doing something similar. And I think it was one example also of trying to work with the seasons and incorporate ingredients that come out and create traditions around
like wine,
around beer and link it back to where things grow.
Yeah,
So, voilà.
I mean, for those who know the history of beer, women were the first brewers. The alewives coming out of Europe and stuff like that, and even back in Mesopotamia and Egypt, it was the women were brewing. So, and just women naturally have better palates than men. It's the thing. So,
Renowned,
that's the thing. It's just such a male-focused industry, but it's nice that at least some people are trying to change.
And there are women out there in the industry. We're trying to meet them and create links. But
I mean, you're not going to change everybody's mind. You're always going to have a BMC drinker, no matter what you are in. A working class neighborhood, as am I. Despite the gentrification, there's still working class, lower paid people who live in the area who are, and you said, keeping your beer at under $7 makes it affordable for somebody like that to come here and drink a beer, who can support the neighborhood pub.
Absolutely. That's the idea. And we try not to have, also, I think that's one thing, not to have too much of I don't want to say nerdy because it's not nice, but not to have too much of a vibe where you have to know beer to come here. And you know, it's simple. We do classics, we do whatever. You know, so I usually ask the clients, "Quelle saveur tu veux?" You know, what taste do you want instead of what type. And so it's also, I think it's part of that to break also a bit of a culture in the brewing industry to make it more accessible, more normal to drink serious, and brew. You know? That's it. And less pretentious, and that's part of making it diversifying the people who drink beer, craft beer, and who feel empowered to talk about it, try it, brew it. I think that's part of the idea. So not just women, you know, like anyone, who, whatever, however you identify or feel, it's something that you can try to do. And
Beer's for you know, beer, unless you don't like beer, beer's for everyone. So why not? It's, you know, we need to get out of our little box that we put ourselves in. No, beer's for dudes. No, it's not for dudes
that's
anymore.
it.
So.
No, so many different flavors. It's for everybody, and it's not true that you don't like beer. You just when some people don't like beer, they just don't like a classic lager kind of beer. It's just that beer taste, but after that, there's tons of styles.
Exactly. And it's part of popular culture. It's part of working class culture, peasant culture. It's, you know, it's something that's that's close to the ground. So.
And like I said, you guys are more than welcome in coming in and seeing a bunch of kids, and I'm like, wait a second, this is not, you know, it's weird to see kids in a pub that's not downtown. So it's quite the change, but you're super community focused, which is the important part. Amazing. So for SansTaverne as a brand, what's next? Like expansion, getting more stores, anything?
Well, main thing I guess is keeping what we're doing, keeping it going, and getting known more across Quebec. And we were talking about it earlier on. Maybe go a little more, see our neighbors on Ontario, and maybe, you never know, maybe go to Vermont in the next couple of years. But main thing is to keep the community alive and have more people coming in.
That's it. We've never really had I think people usually think, oh, if you're doing good, you should expand. You know, sort of part of capitalist culture too. That's like how it goes. You know, if you're doing good, why not expand? Why not make more money? We had a client once who came in who loved one of our beers so much. He was like, why don't you get a factory and make 40,000 liters a batch? You know, and he was like pissed off that we didn't. You know, he thought it was unjust. But we don't really want to expand for now anyway. And it feels like, as you said, we just want to do what we do well and have good working conditions too, and be less tired because we work really hard. Refine the machine, fine-tune the machine so that things really roll smoothly, and make those little dreams the things we still want to do happen, and meet more people. Voila.
Awesome. So thank you very, very much for speaking with us today about your co-op and everything that's involved with it, the history of the building. Both of you taking time out of your schedule, clearly you're both very busy people, to actually speak with us about SansTaverne. I have no other questions. Let people know where they can find you.
Thank you very much. Well, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at SansTaverne. Just hit that out and you'll find us. And also at santaverne.coop on the website.
And for people who are looking you online, what's the address if they're traveling here?
Right, we're all the way south of the Pointe St-Charles neighborhood. It's at 1900 Rue le Ber. It's a 15-20 minute walk from the metro. It's very accessible by bike. If you manage to find your way out here, you'll get one of the nicest sunsets in the city. And we're just at the foot of the city next to the river. So,
Buses 57, 71, it gets you right at the door. So.
Exactly. And if you're into trains, train yard just around the corner. Awesome. So all that will be in the show notes. As for us, it's allbeerinside.com is the website. At allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.